Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech, where we blend casual conversations with insightful discussions on the latest in technology and gadgets. Today we're diving into a whirlwind of tech news. From AI's coding leaps to silent albums protesting AI copyright laws. Buckle up, it's going to be a wild ride. You know, one thing that's been blowing my mind lately is just how fast AI is evolving. It seems like every day there's a new breakthrough, and this week is no exception.
What's fascinating is how AI is impacting practically every corner of the tech world, from software development to music creation and even space exploration. It really feels like we're on the cusp of a major shift.
Okay, let's unpack this AI explosion. One of the biggest stories this week is Anthropic's new AI model, Claude 3.7 Sonnet. This thing is being hailed as the industry's first hybrid reasoning model. So, before my head explodes trying to understand what that even means, can you break it down for us?
Well, imagine an AI that can not only give you quick answers, but also think through complex problems step by step, like a human. That's the magic of Claude 3.7 Sonnet. It's like having a super fast calculator that can also write a novel.
That's incredible. And you know what's even crazier? Developers are already going nuts for it. I was reading that Cognition, the company behind the AI coding tool, Devin, actually admitted that Claude is far better. That's like Pepsi saying Coke is the better cola. It shows you how much of a game changer this could be for developers.
The reactions have been quite remarkable. And what's really exciting is that we're only scratching the surface of what Claude can achieve. Anthropic has a bold vision for its future, seeing it not just as a tool, but as a true collaborator, maybe even a pioneer in its own right. They believe it could help us solve problems that would normally take humans years to crack.
Okay, that's getting a bit into sci-fi territory, but it's definitely exciting to think about. But before we get too carried away with AI taking over the world, let's shift gears to something a bit more grounded. Apple. They're dropping a cool $500 billion in U.S. manufacturing over the next 4 years. That's a lot of dough.
It is a staggering amount, and it tells you a lot about the balancing act Apple is trying to pull off. You see, President Trump's tariffs on Chinese goods have put them in a bit of a bind. This investment is partly a way to appease the U.S. government while still maintaining their presence in China.
So it's a high-stakes game for them. What are some of the key areas they're investing in?
Well, they're planning a new AI server facility in Houston, which will be a huge addition to their AI infrastructure. They're also expanding their advanced manufacturing fund to a whopping $10 billion, supporting innovative U.S. manufacturing companies. They're basically trying to hedge their bets.
But the big question is, will it be enough to dodge those tariffs entirely?
That remains to be seen. It's a complex situation with a lot of moving parts. The tariffs are just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
Speaking of complex situations, let's dive into the world of music where things are getting a little quiet. You know how much you love discovering new music, right? Well, over 1,000 UK musicians have released a silent album called Is This What We Want? As a protest.
It's a powerful statement, and it highlights a growing concern in the music industry. They're protesting proposed law changes that would allow AI companies to train their models on copyrighted music without permission, unless artists specifically opt out.
Yeah, imagine a world where algorithms are churning out hit songs, but the actual musicians get nothing. That's the dystopian future these artists are trying to prevent with this silent protest. It's a stark reminder that as we embrace AI's potential, we also need to think about the ethical implications and make sure creators are protected.
Absolutely. This isn't just about music. It's about the future of creativity in the age of AI. We need to have a serious conversation about how to ensure that human artists and creators are fairly compensated and recognized for their work.
Could agree more. All right, enough with the silent treatment. Let's blast off to something a little more exciting. SpaceX. You've always been fascinated by space travel, and this next Starship test flight is going to be a nail-biter. Remember that last one? Kaboom. Hopefully this time they stick the landing.
They are targeting Friday for the next test flight. It's true that the previous one ended, shall we say, rather dramatically, but SpaceX has made numerous upgrades to improve reliability. They're not letting a little explosion stop them.
That's the spirit. And while we're on the topic of space, there's another mission launching this week that has me pretty intrigued.
You must be talking about the Lunar Trailblazer mission. It's launching on a SpaceX Falcon rocket this week, and its goal is to map water on the lunar surface.
Water on the moon. What's the big deal about that?
Scientists believe lunar water could be a game changer for future space exploration. It could potentially be turned into hydrogen for fuel and oxygen for breathing, making the moon a more viable base for further missions. Imagine fueling up your spaceship with moon water.
That's wild. So we've got SpaceX launching giant rockets, and we're
Mhm.
sending a probe to map lunar water. It's a good week for space enthusiasts. But let's bring things back down to Earth, literally. Adobe Photoshop is finally available on iPhones. No more clunky mobile editing apps, right?
Well, there will always be a place for simpler editing apps. But for serious image editing on the go, this is a big deal. The mobile version has many of the same features as the desktop version, but optimized for a smaller screen. It offers a level of power and precision that was previously unavailable on smartphones.
It's amazing how technology keeps pushing boundaries. But hold on, we've got one last headline that's making waves in the tech world. Remember Sam Bankman-Fried, the FTX founder who's currently serving time?
Yes, what about him?
Well, he just broke his 2-year silence on X with a 10-post thread about Elon Musk's recent ultimatum to federal workers. A bit random, don't you think?
It is a rather unexpected move. Perhaps he's trying to stay relevant, or maybe he just has a lot of time on his hands.
Maybe he's angling for a tech comeback after his prison sentence. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Probably.
Ah.
But it just goes to show, even behind bars, tech moguls can still stir up the internet. Speaking of stirring things up, there's another development in the AI world that's worth mentioning.
You must be talking about AI search startup Perplexity and their new web browser, Comet.
That's the one. Details are scarce, but they're calling it a browser for agentic search, which sounds pretty intriguing. What do you think they mean by agentic search?
It likely refers to a browser designed to work seamlessly with AI agents, allowing them to interact with the web in a more sophisticated way. Imagine an AI browsing the web for you, doing your research, maybe even online shopping.
Whoa, now that's getting a little too Black Mirror for me. But it does highlight the growing ambition of AI startups and their desire to reshape the digital landscape.
And that's what makes this such an exciting time to be following the tech world. Every day brings new advancements, and it's fascinating to see how these technologies are evolving and shaping our lives. Speaking of advancements, remember how earlier we were talking about Google and their ventures into the AI-powered coding space?
Yeah, they're going head-to-head with GitHub Copilot, right?
Exactly. Google just launched a free version of their Gemini Code Assist, aptly named Gemini Code Assist for individuals. You know, GitHub Copilot is a pretty popular AI coding tool that helps developers write code faster and more efficiently. But now Google's offering a free version with a high usage cap.
So it's like a David and Goliath battle of the coding assistants.
It certainly seems that way. And for users, having more options is always a good thing. Competition drives innovation and hopefully leads to even better tools for developers.
You know what else is interesting about this? It shows how seriously Google is taking AI. Making Gemini Code Assist free for individuals could attract a huge user base and give them a real edge over competitors like GitHub.
It's a smart move. They're essentially investing in the future of AI coding by making their tools accessible to a wider audience.
It'll be fascinating to see how this competition plays out. Okay, that was a whirlwind tour of the tech landscape. From AI coding marvels to silent protests and lunar water mapping, it's clear that innovation never stops. But now let's hop over to China, where Alibaba is making some serious moves in the AI world.
It seems like they're taking a page out of the playbook of some of these ambitious AI startups we were talking about. Remember those bold claims from Anthropic about Claude's potential?
Yeah, aiming to solve problems that would take humans years. Pretty ambitious stuff. What exactly is Alibaba doing?
They're investing a jaw-dropping $53 billion over the next 3 years in new data centers and AI infrastructure. To put that into perspective, that's like buying Twitter every year for the next 3 years.
Wow, that's a serious chunk of change. What's driving this massive investment? Are they trying to build their own version of Claude?
It's part of a bigger push in China for a collaborative effort between the private and public sectors to really accelerate AI development. Think of it like a national moonshot, but for artificial intelligence.
So it's not just about Alibaba trying to outdo Anthropic or Google. It's about China as a whole trying to become a global leader in AI.
Exactly. It's going to be interesting to see how this impacts the global AI landscape, especially with the U.S. also investing heavily in AI research and development. It's shaping up to be quite the AI race.
It's like the space race all over again. But this time it's about who can build the smartest AI. Speaking of space, earlier we were talking about Apple's massive investment in U.S. manufacturing. There's another angle to that story that I found pretty interesting.
You must be talking about the new AI server manufacturing facility they're building in Houston, Texas.
That's the one. It's supposed to open in 2026 and create around 20,000 jobs. That's a huge boost for U.S. manufacturing, especially in the growing field of AI.
It's a strategic move on Apple's part. It reinforces their commitment to U.S. manufacturing, which aligns with President Trump's America First agenda. But it also highlights the growing importance of AI to Apple's overall strategy.
It makes sense. AI is becoming so integrated into everything these days. Smartphones, software, data centers, even space exploration. Speaking of space exploration, we were just talking about SpaceX and their upcoming Starship test flight, as well as the Lunar Trailblazer mission to map water on the moon. But there's another space-related story that caught my eye this week.
You must be talking about the Chinese firm Engine AI and their humanoid robot PM01.
Yes. This thing can do a front flip. I mean, I could barely do a cartwheel, so that's pretty impressive.
It's a significant achievement in robotics. To execute a front flip, the robot needs incredibly precise balance, advanced visual perception, and accurate landing control.
It's like watching a gymnast, but it's a robot. What are the potential applications of this technology beyond just showing off?
Well, beyond the wow factor, this kind of advancement could have implications for search and rescue operations, disaster relief, and even space exploration. Imagine robots that can navigate difficult terrain and perform complex tasks in hazardous environments.
It's like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but in a good way. It's amazing to see how far robotics has come. Okay, let's take a little break from robots and spaceships and touch on something a bit more down to earth. The internet. Remember the good old days of dial-up? That ear-splitting screech of the modem connecting?
Ah, yes. The soundtrack of the early internet. Hard to forget that sound.
Well, get ready for a blast from the past, because two AI voice agents were recently caught on video communicating using a sound that's remarkably similar to dial-up.
Really? AI agents speaking dial-up? That's bizarrely fascinating.
Right. Apparently, these two AI agents were programmed to use a protocol called Gugwave, and during a phone call, they recognized each other and switched to this audio-based communication method. The developers claim it's actually a more efficient way for them to exchange information.
So instead of using human language, they're communicating through these modulated audio signals. That's a pretty different approach.
It really makes you wonder how AI might communicate in the future as these technologies keep evolving. It's both fascinating and a little bit unsettling, isn't it?
It definitely raises some interesting questions about the future of AI and its relationship with humans. But before we go down that rabbit hole, let's get back to the headlines. We've been talking a lot about AI, but there's another big issue in the tech world that we need to address: App Store commissions.
Yeah, those have been a hot topic for a while now. Apple in particular has faced a lot of criticism for its 30% cut of app sales and in-app purchases.
Well, it seems like those concerns were even raised internally at Apple. Phil Schiller, the executive in charge of the App Store, recently testified in court that he had initially expressed concerns about the high commission Apple planned to charge developers for purchases made outside of its App Store.
That's pretty surprising. I wouldn't expect to hear that kind of dissent from within Apple. What were Schiller's specific concerns?
He reportedly argued that the high commission could create a tense relationship between Apple and developers, increase compliance risks, and require Apple to have intrusive audit rights to track transactions outside of its platform. Basically, she thought it might cause more trouble than it was worth.
So even within Apple, there were reservations about these high commissions.
It seems so. But despite Schiller's concerns, Apple ultimately decided to stick with the 30% commission. It's a classic example of the complex balance between business interests and developer relations that companies like Apple have to navigate.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the future. Hopefully they can find a solution that works for both Apple and the developers. Okay, let's move on to a topic that's unfortunately become all too familiar. Data breaches.
Yes, it seems like every week there's a new one making headlines. This week, it's DISA, a company that provides employee screening services that has suffered a breach potentially affecting over 3.3 million people.
Another one. That's awful. What kind of information was compromised in this breach?
This is a serious one. Hackers may have gained access to sensitive data, including social security numbers, credit card numbers, and other government-issued identification. It's a stark reminder of the importance of robust cybersecurity measures for any company that handles personal information.
Absolutely. Data breaches can be devastating for both individuals and companies. It's more important than ever to be vigilant and take steps to protect your personal information online.
Couldn't agree more. Let's shift gears now to a topic that's generating both excitement and apprehension: the intersection of AI and creativity. We touched on this earlier with the music industry protest, but it goes far beyond just music.
Yeah, AI is being used to generate art, music, and even written content these days. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But where does that leave human creators?
It's a question that's sparking a lot of debate. On the one hand, AI tools can be incredibly powerful for artists, musicians, and writers, enabling them to explore new creative avenues and streamline their workflows.
Right. It's like having a super-powered creative assistant at your fingertips. But there are also concerns about whether AI could eventually replace human creativity altogether, leading to a devaluation of art and the loss of human expression.
It's a valid concern and one that we need to be mindful of as AI becomes more sophisticated. We need to find a way to embrace AI's creative potential while also ensuring that human artists and creators are fairly compensated and recognized for their work.
It's a complex issue, and there are no easy answers. But it's a conversation we need to keep having, as AI plays an increasingly important role in our lives. Before we wrap up this segment, let's lighten the mood a bit. I came across a story that I think you'll appreciate, given your sense of humor. It involves Elon Musk, and believe it or not, his dog.
Elon Musk and his dog. This I have to hear.
Well, apparently over the weekend, Musk's dog, DOGE, managed to send an email to thousands of federal employees.
Wait, his dog sent an email. How is that even possible?
Okay. It's highly likely that someone with access to Musk's accounts is the real culprit behind this prank. But the story is just too good not to share.
I'm all ears. What did this canine email say?
Apparently, DOGE, or rather someone pretending to be DOGE, ordered the Office of Personnel Management to email thousands of federal employees asking for a list of their accomplishments from the previous week.
Oh dear. I can only imagine the chaos that ensued.
It gets better. The email address got leaked, and you know what happens when the internet gets hold of an email address?
Let me guess. It got flooded with spam.
You got it. The inbox was inundated with all sorts of nonsense. I'm sure the federal employees were thrilled.
I bet they were. But hey, at least it's a good reminder to always be mindful of cybersecurity, even when dealing with playful canine CEOs.
Exactly. You never know when a dog might accidentally send out an email to thousands of people. Speaking of things that are hard to predict, let's talk about the latest developments in the ongoing tension between President Trump's policies and the tech industry. It seems like this clash between politics and tech just keeps escalating. Where are we at now?
Well, President Trump recently signed a memorandum suggesting that fines against U.S. businesses could lead to retaliatory tariffs or other actions. It's basically a warning shot across the bow of the European Union, which has stricter data privacy laws than the U.S.
So it's like a potential trade war brewing, but instead of fighting over goods, they're fighting over data. That's wild.
It is, and it really highlights the increasing complexity of global tech policy. Data flows across borders, online platforms operate globally, it's a tangled web.
It's a reminder that tech isn't just about cool gadgets and innovation. It's deeply intertwined with politics and global economics.
Precisely. And speaking of politics and tech, there's been another hot topic lately. Remote work and its future. Remember when everyone thought the office was dead?
Yeah, it felt like the world had gone fully remote during the pandemic. But now some companies are mandating a return to the office while others are sticking with remote work. It's a real tug of war.
JP Morgan, for example, just had a pretty heated town hall meeting where they announced that everyone must be back in the office. But then you have companies like Stripe, whose founders are huge advocates for remote work.
It seems like both sides have valid points. What do you think is the best approach?
Honestly, I think the future of work is likely to be a hybrid model. A mix of in-office and remote work that gives employees more flexibility. It's about finding what works best for each company and its employees.
Flexibility seems to be the key. All right, one last thing before we wrap up. Investments. What are venture capitalists excited about these days?
AI is still a hot area. Investors are pouring money into companies developing AI-powered solutions for all sorts of industries.
Any examples that caught your eye?
Well, there's Dock and Lock, a startup that uses AI to automate customs filings for importers. It's a niche area, but it addresses a real pain point for businesses involved in international trade. And then there's Lovable, a company that lets you build apps through simple prompts instead of traditional coding.
Wait, you mean you don't need to be a coding whiz to create an app anymore?
That's the idea. Tools like Lovable are making app development accessible to anyone with a creative idea, even if they don't know how to code. It's democratizing technology and empowering individuals.
That's amazing. It's a reminder that technology is constantly evolving and creating new opportunities. Well, I think we've covered just about everything in the tech world this week. From AI breakthroughs and space missions to data breaches, trade wars, and even Elon Musk's dog sending emails, it's been a wild ride.
It certainly has. It's an exciting, challenging, and sometimes even bizarre time to be following the tech industry. And as we've seen today, it's more important than ever to stay informed and engage in thoughtful discussions about the impact of these technologies on our lives.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for tuning in to Byte-Sized Tech. If you enjoyed the episode, like, comment, share, and subscribe for more fun tech discussions.